Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. Who is this? Who's this? Oh!
A spooky ghost.
It hasn't happened in almost 2 months, but we finally have the full cast together. I'm Serge. Joining me, as always, we've got the original crew.
As always.
Jer, Alex, and Liam, the OG crew.
What up?
How's it going, everybody? A reminder that this podcast is brought to you by you with your support at the Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. I'm so excited to do another 4-person thing today. So let's start us off with the opening segment. We always do the best card you're not playing. Hey, Alex.
Yeah.
Welcome back. You got some spice?
Mm-hmm.
What you got?
Best card you're not playing is Shadow of Doubt.
That is a good card.
This is a rare from Ravnica. It's 2 blue-black hybrid mana for an instant. Players can't search libraries this turn. Draw a card.
Holy moly.
It's very simple, but this card, you just cast it and brick anybody's search effect. So this works against like any tutor, any fetch land.
Not quite any tutor.
Well,
there's an unpointed one, or a recently unpointed one that doesn't get it. Tainted Pact gets around.
Shadow reveal from the top.
Whoa!
Instead.
Holy moly!
And what I like about Shadow of Doubt is worst case scenario cantrips.
Yeah, that's part of why this effect is really great. It's instant. It cantrips, so it's like even if it's stuck in your hand and you have nothing to hit with it, it cycles. It's easy to cast across 2 colors. It also has sweet Greg Staples art. So.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting it's symmetrical, a fact people occasionally forget. They'll be like, cycle the Shadow of Doubt on your end step. Okay, cool, drew that card. Now I want a different land. Fetch.
Like, well, whoops. You don't even get to dig 4 deep. You just die.
Yeah, the other tough thing that people can do if they know you're playing Shadow of Doubt, if you fetch, they'll fetch in response, and then you get this really awkward, like, if I Shadow of Doubt, I goozle myself.
Yes, your Shadow of Doubt changes from Stone Rain to Raise.
It also hits both libraries, so if your opponent casts Bribery and you cast Shadow of Doubt in response, they can't search your library for a creature.
It's relevant.
It's come up. I've done it.
Bribery, I haven't seen a lot lately, but it is a card that does things.
It used to be really good. I think, with people playing less big cheat decks, it might still be good.
Although now that Consecrated Sphinx and Inferno Titan have worked their way back into decks, it might be time to start.
You could take their Platinum Emperor, Empyreon, or whatever it's called. The Hate Boy.
Serge, I'm going to level with you. I haven't seen a Blue Moon deck in like 3 months at this point.
Holy moly, I
Serge,
can't
if you played Quicken, you could Quicken Bribery them in response.
to their madcap, and then they just die.
That's hot. They're just like, meow.
Directly into the sea. I love it.
All right.
Let us talk about today's episode. It is part 2 of our core set 19 set review. I said the word set too many times, but that's just how it works. Last week, we did the first 4/5 of Wooburg. We did Wooburg. Yeah, stopping just before green, and then we gave everybody a little bit of time to contact us, and we got a little bit of feedback. In particular, a lot of people who are like, "Why'd you stop before green?"
Didn't you explain that?
It's fine.
We sure did.
But let's talk specifically about how we evaluate cards. This is not a card-by-card set review. Instead, this is just specifically from the point of view of what we think will make a splash in Highlander, or cards we think that are close but don't quite get in there, or cards that we think are maybe not so playable, but you might be convinced otherwise.
A deception.
A deception.
A clever ruse.
So let's get right into it. And the card that I want to talk about first is a card submitted by a viewer, and that is the Viashino Pyromancer. So this is really interesting. This is a red card, even though we said we weren't doing this, but we're going to go back in time and talk about this because a viewer suggested it. This is a 2-mana, 2/1 for 1 in red. It's a piker. It's a Viashino wizard creature type. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to target player or planeswalker. And let's start off with Liam. Liam, let's talk about this card.
Yeah, so the person who submitted this card is someone from Victoria who plays a lot of mono red, is basically what I would describe.
The most.
Yeah, or I guess red, I should say. He plays occasionally an Ancestral Recall in his deck, but a lot of red cards. And what he said is that the reason this card, he thinks it's really powerful, is that it always gets 2 damage in, and then it's sometimes going to get bonus damage in. And that's actually better than haste because it doesn't get bricked by the board. So this is actually, from his perspective, better to draw in the late game than something like Ash Sell It, or he said better than Valley Dasher because that's the card he was playing on Thursday. But
Interesting.
Valley Dasher not especially playable, but yeah, better than some of the haste creatures because it just is guaranteed to get damage in, and then sometimes it even gets extra damage in. Which, if this ever does 4 damage, it's incredible,
It's
right?
also
That's
like
a really good.
got a
rate.
nice splashy mana cost. So I could see this sliding into something like Grill Aggro maybe. And the ones that like skew a little harder on the like burn spell kind of pump spell side.
Yeah, I like this. This was a card that we totally overlooked, and somebody made a very compelling argument. We're like, yeah, let's talk about this.
Yeah, I think what happened is that I read it and saw that it didn't say creature, and then checked out. I just decided like, it's not flexible
Can you
enough.
imagine if this hit creatures?
Yeah, then
That'd
If
be
it was
very good.
like mini
That would be
FTK,
insane.
Yeah, just half DK.
That card would be
half DK.
bonkers.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's half everything else. But yeah, it turns out that just the burn deck in particular just wants to go to the dome, and this card is very good at presenting 2 pieces of ID and getting into the dome. That's a really deep reference. If you're from Halifax, Nova Scotia, you might get it. Otherwise, you won't. And
I just like the joke. You didn't have to.
it's okay. I'm done. Let's talk
All right.
about more cards.
Welcome to green. Let's start us off with our first green card, the Elvish Clan Caller. Green for a 1/1 elf druid. Other elves you control get +1/+1.
Uh-huh.
And for 6, for a 4 green and tap, you may search your library for a card called Elvish Clan Caller. It's the same card. Put it onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. Jer.
So this is just an elf lord. In our format, the activated ability does literally nothing.
You can't have multiples of it. Yeah.
Every time. There is sort of an elf aggro deck.
It does not do nothing. You get a shuffle.
Yeah, as I said,
Okay.
it does nothing.
So when they're Jace locking you in on turn 15,
If you've got a Courser of Crewfix and you need that land, you can spend 6.
is
You
Corsair
really
an elf?
need that 7th land,
Yeah. Okay.
and to only have 1 mana once you hit it,
yeah.
and in your elf deck.
I'm just saying it's not strictly 0.
It's also a
All right.
druid.
Ooh.
That is not irrelevant text.
All right. Sorry, Jer.
Yeah, so basically, I think you're only playing this in an aggressive elf tribal deck where
Elf
you
ball.
just want a really high density of lords, and 2-drop lords are really good. I don't think elves had a 2-mana lord, like a real
mean-
one.
Eladamri doesn't pump them.
It gives them Shroud and Forest Walk. So
Interesting.
He's the closest to like a lord-like effect, but this one actually pumps your team.
this one pumps them. So I think this is the first 2-mana real lord elves got. So sweeten that deck. Don't think it gets into anything else.
Next up, we have the Elvish Rejuvenator. We're really on this elf theme right now. 3 mana 1/1 for 2 and a green. Elf Druid. Again, very relevant creature types. When it ETBs, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land, not even a basic, just any land from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Alex.
This seems better and worse than what's the name of the elf?
What else?
Yeah, Wood Elves. So Wood Elves is 2 and a green for 1/1, and it searches for a forest
Yep.
and puts it in untapped.
Yep.
So having the land enter tapped is not as good, but hitting any land is kind of cool.
But it is only in the top 5, so you are going to brick
Yeah,
some percentage of the
sometimes.
time, whereas Wood Elves is never bricking.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a Aven Mind Sensor in play.
So I mean, like this has the
Wait, that's like the same?
Ugh.
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, this has the opportunity to ramp and fix in non-green colors, which technically Wood Elves can do anyway. But you can
I'm
also
trying
maybe
this out.
like
I'm excited about it.
in lands. I figured
Yeah.
you would try this
Yeah.
out in lands. Like, let us know how it goes.
Yeah, probably exactly how you evaluate it.
The
Sometimes
card's
I'm gonna
interesting,
brick.
but yeah,
All right, next up, we have the Gigantosaurus.
the what?
All right, it's a big old boy. Check out this.
Oh yes!
4 green. You get a 10/10 dinosaur. Liam.
It's big. This is only playable in the mono green aggro deck, which is a playable deck.
Yeah.
I played against it in round 1 of the Seattle tournament. Had like a very close match against my opponent there.
Mono green, not Gigantosaurus.
Yeah, mono green. Not, he had not somehow acquired an early copy of this card. No, but mono green. So like that deck's playable. That deck gets to 5 mana and wants this kind of effect. I don't think the deck's like like Cradlehoof want this kind of card.
No,
Like they
this-
can make 5 green, but they want to be killing you rather than just only making a 10/10.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't feel like you want to play many 5-drops in mono green unless well, it depends on the
Planeswalkers,
version.
Thragtusk.
Well,
Like if you have elves in your deck, I think if you're curving up to like 4, like going to the extra 5th mana for this is like pretty good.
Well, it's
but
interesting because like Jar's version of mono green and the version that I built of mono green, like his was a little bit more mid range and mine was more aggro. So I mean, I feel like this goes into some version of the deck because it's just like 5 mana, 10/10. It's big and it's huge.
You could say Giganto.
It's
gigantic.
it's the
even.
biggest idiot.
Jer?
I'm not super stoked on this just because of the lack of evasion
Trample,
mostly trample. This card is just like dying to have the keyword trample on it, and it just doesn't like. When I compare this, my favorite 5-drop in the mono green deck is Verdurous Gearhulk,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and that's like worst case an 8/8 with trample, and I'd rather have an 8/8 with trample
Yeah.
than a 10/10. And that's its worst case. It also has additional upside
Yeah,
because
that's
you
fair.
can distribute the counters as you like. So
This doesn't get shattered, but you're probably right.
yeah, this card is reasonable to play in the deck, but I think there are some other
I mean,
options.
it's probably
that-
going to be cheap too. So
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We have Goreclaw, Terror of Calcisma?
Qual Sisma.
Calcisma?
Yeah.
We got ourselves a 4/3 for 4 for 3 and a green, Legendary Bear. Creature spells you cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 generic less to cast. And whenever Goreclaw attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. Who am I on right now?
Jeremy.
Is it back to Jer? Jer.
So, this card looks super exciting, and for me, it has a lot of great text. Cost reducing is always a super powerful effect in Magic, especially like you don't often see things cost reduced by 2. Usually, typically it's 1. Pumping potentially a huge big army and giving trample is great. Like big things really want trample and to be bigger. So like
Yeah.
all the text is very good. I'm just not sure there's a really great spot for this card.
I mean, like maybe there's some sort of like green X stompy deck, because like the 4 or greater clause there was a mechanic in cons that was almost
Formidable.
formidable that would play really nice with this, and you know there's no shortage of like decent 4-drops that have 4+ power. Like you know the one that jumps to mind is like Flame Tongue Kavu.
For sure, but
It's like
then
FDK
the curve of your deck is super high, and if you don't hit like
This, yeah.
this
Yeah.
or the lower end to really accelerate you, then you could potentially find yourself in trouble. Yeah, like as I said, I think the card is super powerful. I'm just not sure there's enough support for a deck of that style
This
yet.
card is amazing in EDH.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. It's
Yeah.
like if you could reliably have it on turn 4 every game or turn 3 whenever you could cast it, it would be great. But you can't, and so a lot of the deck building constraints that it inflicts on you are a little brutal.
It's interesting. You basically have to evaluate this as a 4 mana creature that attacks as a 5/3 trample.
5/4 trample.
5/4 trample that will like occasionally make one or two other spells you cast in this game cheaper. And is that good enough as a 4-drop as opposed to other always like would you play this or Thrun?
Like in a green-red deck with a bunch of dragons as well, like casting dragons for 3 mana sounds pretty exciting to me.
Yeah.
Like
That
3
is
mana,
pretty cool.
3 mana Thundermaw Hellkite is like a thing I could get behind.
Or just like even untap play 2 4-drops for 2 mana apiece. That's
So-
pretty dumb.
There's been a deck that I've been like, it's like a back pocket deck,
Okay.
which is like, I call it Orcish Lumberjack aggro.
Oh yeah!
And so, Orcish Lumberjack is a 1/1 for a red mana, and you can tap it and sacrifice a forest to either add 4 red or 4 green to your mana pool.
Holy moly.
And so it's just like trying to play like turbo big red and green threats super early.
Does this deck play Tinderwall?
Yes. Yeah, so you're just playing like all the 1 and 2 mana accelerants that like jump you way up the curve, and you're just trying to slam like a really, really huge thing on turn 2 or 3.
Can this deck play Metamorphosis?
Probably not.
I just keep wanting
Thanks,
to
Ryan.
slide that into something.
But Yeah, so like this is definitely a card for Orcish Lumberjack aggro. I'm still not sure if it's there yet, but
The dream one day. All right, let's move on. Next up, we have the Hungering Hydra. X and a green gives you a 0/0 Hydra. Oh wait, there's more text. Hungering Hydra enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. Hungering Hydra can't be blocked by more than one creature, and whenever it is dealt damage, put that many +1/+1 counters onto it. Alex, what do you think of this card?
Usually, like Hydra-like creatures don't see any play in our format because you're sort of paying a premium on its power, and it will always be below curve because like it's usually a green and X or green and X. Although this sounds interesting because the last two abilities sort of low-key combo.
That's the thing. That middle line is the card that makes this very, very interesting. It can't be blocked by more than one creature.
Yeah, so the creature you block with has to kill it, otherwise it gets bigger.
Yup.
Like, potentially much bigger.
Yup.
My one concern is that, or sorry, keep going, and I'll explain my concern.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what the realistic scenario with this is going to be. Like, your dream scenarios are like, make it a 2/2 attack. You know, you have 1/1s to block with, and you're like, oh no. Like, I feel like the sensation I'm getting from this card is that it's going to get traded with very gladly a lot.
Yeah, like my concern is like when you think about how much mana you have to invest into this in order to make it like remotely menacing, it's like 5 at the least is kind of what I'm thinking.
Make
Like
it a 4/4.
Like if this is just a 3/3, like most decks can just be like, well, I can comfortably never block a 3/3 until I can kill it.
And you're like, I just don't care.
So it's like potentially kind of expensive for the effect that you're getting out of it. It is a really cool effect though, so I hope it's good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I look at this and I was like, would I rather be playing something like Mistcutter Hydra that has haste and like protection from blue? Maybe.
And can't be countered.
And can't be countered. That's
Yeah.
ooh, maybe I should get one of those. I should buy a Mistcutter Hydra.
That's a better financial decision than a boat.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Next up, we've got a spicy reprint. Let's welcome back our friend, the Reclamation Sage. 3 mana 2/1 for 2 and a green, Elf Shaman. That Shaman creature type being very relevant here. When Rec Sage enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Liam.
Yeah, this card's reasonable. You play this card a bunch, basically. So this is the sort of like premier naturalized on a body. It gets played in all of the creature decks that can tutor for it very easily. It occasionally gets played in the mid-range decks that maybe like have ways of recurring creatures out of their graveyard. This card's really powerful and it basically can be played in almost any green deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the. For what reason would you not play this in a deck that has access to green?
Combo.
you want to be aggressive.
Yeah.
You're off. It can be off plan for some decks,
But no,
fair.
but the
Not
point
many.
you're trying to
The
make, I
utility
understand. Yeah.
is huge.
It's very, very, very
because
good.
like not only can it hit artifacts or enchantments, it's a May clause, so you don't brown yourself.
Yep.
This card's just really good.
yeah, it breaks your Ugin's Nexus really easily. It's very powerful.
Okay.
All right, next up, we have the Runic Armasaur. 3 mana 2/5 for 1 green. It's a dinosaur. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. Jer.
I really like this card. The most common analogous card I've been seeing it compared to is Courser of Crufix, and it sort of does a similar thing. It's got the same mana cost. It's got 2 power. It's got 1 more toughness, which is really good. Like we talk about 4 toughness being really good and like virtually dodges most removal spells. Well, 5 toughness dodges. I don't think anyone's actually playing Roast. Like
No.
yeah,
We're not that deep yet.
dodges all the red removal spells. It probably doesn't draw you a card as often, but your opponent doesn't get to see, and you don't get to see what's on top of your deck. So which can be good or bad. Like sometimes giving your opponent perfect information on what you're drawing for the rest of the game is
like Course of Crufix.
yeah. Still comparing it to Courser of Crufix.
You know what this card makes me think of? This deck that I have had in my back pocket, which is like green idiots with big butts and then red wraths that you can drop right over top of them.
Ah, yes.
Underneath.
Pyroclasm.deck.
Yeah, so it's just like you play out, your Corsair Crew Fixer. The one that gave me the idea was it was from Ixalan. It's the dinosaur that whenever it takes damage, you draw cards.
Ripjaw Raptor.
Yeah, Ripjaw Raptor, and you just like Slagstorm or more like Anger the Gods on top of it, and then you just like crack in and kill them.
You got another point?
Yeah, I was comparing it to Corsair Crew Fix. It probably doesn't draw you a card as often, but it has the upside of not showing your opponent what you're going to draw for the rest of the game, and it's a little worse because it provides your opponent the choice if you are ever going to draw a card. Like, they have to activate an ability, but sometimes they just don't have a choice, and sometimes they'll make the wrong choice. Like, sometimes they'll have like Deathrite Shaman or Stoneforge Mystic or something, and they just won't activate it when they probably should. And other times they'll have like Kiki Jiki set up, and you just get to leave open mana, and you're like, will I draw a removal spell?
Yeah,
let's find out.
Please go through each step individually.
Oh, no.
I'm wondering what your best or most likely activation scenarios are. Like
Fetch lands.
Deathrite Shaman.
Whenever anyone activates a creature land.
Yeah,
Mazavith.
yeah, I was gonna say Maze of Ith's pretty good.
The important thing is this card
Caracas?
activates a lot. Like there's a lot of things that this is just instantly gonna hit, which I think is relevant about.
This card's kind of neat. I'll probably end up playing this a bunch.
Okie dokie.
I like it. All right, let us move on to another very spicy reprint. Say hello. It's your friend Scapeshift. 4 mana sorcery for 2 green. Sacrifice any number of lands. Notably, that's on resolution. You don't have to do it as part of the cost. Search your library for up to that many lands, put them on the battlefield tapped, and give a shuffle. Alex.
Scapeshift deck is more affordable now.
Yeah.
This is part of a combo. This is like a rug list
Or 4-color.
or 4-color.
Yeah.
Basically, you need red.
The combo is you get to 7 lands in play and cast this, and you kill your opponent because you find Valakut and a bunch of mountains. And the way the triggers are stacked, it deals 18 or
It deals 18, yeah. The reason it works is that Valakuts and all the mountains see themselves entering at the same time. And so Valakut says you need 5 mountains in play in order for it to trigger, but when 6 comes in at all at the same time, all of them are like, oh, there's 5 more of us. Great, we'll deal damage.
yeah. So like before this reprint, the card Scapeshift was like $60 to $80.
It was like 100.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Now
At
it's
one
like
point,
a
yeah.
third of that. So
It's like 50 now.
Yeah, you can maybe actually play this deck now.
It's at Mythic still, but, important reprint, which is great. I'm really
This art's
happy.
also great. I really like this art.
Yeah.
I like it too.
Oh, the old art.
Fish.
I do like the fish turning into land. I don't know if I ever looked at it that close, but like the land and the boats being completely appealed is pretty cool too. Now our next green card is the Thorn Lieutenant or Lieutenant, depending on how you
We're
pronounce
in
things.
Canada.
Yeah, you like that pronunciation?
I have no feeling one way or the other.
Okay. I'm waiting. Oh, there we go. 2 mana, 2/3 Elf Warrior for 1 and a green, so already better than a bear. When the Thorn Lieutenant becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you get a 1/1 green Elf Warrior. Also, 6 mana activated ability for 5 and a green. Thorn Lieutenant gets +4/+4 until end of turn. Liam.
Yeah, this card's really powerful. It's going to be bigger than most other things at 2 mana, or at least be able to trade. And one of the nice things is that it's pretty obnoxious to remove without leaving at least a body behind. So either in a deck, even in a deck that doesn't have counter spells or some way to blow out someone's removal spell, even just having this be a 2/3 that leaves a 1/1 behind is good. Add on to the fact that it just has additional text where late in the game it has a mana sink, which is great. Oftentimes these green X aggressive decks kind of peter out a little bit and end up either flooding or you can only cast 1 spell a turn. So having ways to spend your mana later in the game is great. And then also it's a warrior, which is a relevant creature type increasingly.
Yeah,
seems-
actually, yeah.
Yeah, this seems sick in Celestia mid-range. I compare it to something like Fleece Mainline, where it's just decent card, and then later you can dump some mana into make. And
I actually think in exactly green-white this card's maybe a little underwhelming, just
Really?
because I'd just rather play a 3/3, I think.
fair. What would you play it in?
Green-red, or green-black, or green-blue.
Elf.
Basically anything that isn't green-white.
I really love it in something like green blue that traditionally struggles against red decks. And having a 2-mana creature that's really, really good against red decks is something that deck is definitely in the market for. So,
Pikers hate it.
Yeah.
well, and just the fact that they like want to be able to point their removal spells at your creatures as soon as you play them, because they don't want to let you untap with counter magic to protect them. And that's the thing is, if you counter a spell that targets this, you still get the 1/1.
Yeah, it's so
that's
backbreaking if
kinda-
you ever counter a spell targeting this.
It's
That's
a pretty,
actually kinda
pretty big
sweet.
game.
Let's talk about our green planeswalker friend. It's Vivian Reed.
What up?
Vivian Reed, 5-mana walker for 3 green, enters play with 5 loyalty. +1, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. -3, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Only a creature with flying. Very, traditional green there. And
Well, she's an archer.
-8, you get an emblem with creatures you control, get +2/+2, have vigilance, trample, and indestructible. Jared, what do you think about Vivian Reed?
This card is pretty good. So the most obvious thing when I look at this card is it has no way of protecting itself, which is something that we really look for in Planeswalkers in this format.
Yep.
However, it is really good at winning the game. I think this will see some play in Craterhoof decks depending on the meta, mostly dependent on how good the -3 is. They think the -3 will be in the meta, because that covers a lot of the bases that hoof decks traditionally struggle with. Cards they often lose to include Humility, big flying creatures, Umezawa's Jite.
Moat.
They're all right at beating Moat. But, like, Swords of Protection from green, they lose to those things. And so this is very good at cleaning up a bunch of the deck's weaknesses. And if you stick it and they don't have any of the things you need to minus on, ticking up is really, really good in that deck. You're going to find it hard to brick ticking up in hoof.
Also, like, this ultimate is not that far away.
Pardon me.
4 turns, but
But
yeah,
I mean,
not too bad.
Yeah.
This is the most green walker ever, though. It's like everything that green is known for is in this card.
Yeah.
It's really funny. All right, that's it for green. Let's move to some spicy gold cards, and I hope you like dragons, because I got some dragons for you to
Okay.
talk about. Let's talk about our first friend, Chromium the Mutable. 7 mana, 7/7 for 4 Esper. It's an Elder Dragon. Flash. Cannot be countered. Flying. And then the last ability, discard a card until end of turn. Chromium becomes a human. With base power and toughness of 1, loses all abilities, but gains hexproof and can't be blocked. Alex.
What a weird card.
It turns into Invisible Stalker.
Yeah, like, this seems like a giant pain to get rid of.
Next
Like,
to impossible.
It seems virtually impossible to get rid
You
of.
just need a Wrath. Like anything that deals X.
Well, okay, yeah, like, but conventional removal is pretty blank against this, because you can just activate the ability as many times as you have cards, even when you're tapped out.
Yeah.
7
hard to
mana is a
deal with.
lot, but you're gonna stick this spell, and it's gonna kill your opponent.
It has flash.
Why does it have flash?
This is a scary dragon. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, one of the things it can do, so like if you have a bunch of removal spells and you're not at like 2, you can just point a removal spell to gain 6. Like,
Wait, what?
they have to activate in response, and then you only take 1 damage instead of 7.
Yeah.
So it's actually
When
not
it
very.
attacks.
It's actually not very good at hitting for 7.
Well, they have to have a removal
Yeah.
spell that kills it. There's not actually
Sure.
that many of
Every
those.
every card in their hand suddenly is double healing self.
Well, but it's not, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah,
like
yeah.
it has to be like Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, like some of the black removal that people play. But like this card dodges all the red removal.
This seems like a
Yeah.
very, very interesting win con for the red deck, or for the control decks. Just
Yeah.
like you don't really go shields down at the end of their turn.
Just like, boop, untap, have counter magic, and the ability. You can have like counter magic and protection for this at the same time.
It's pretty spicy.
That's
All right.
scary.
Let's move on to another reprint. We have our friend, the Enigma Drake. Not a dragon, I lied. For 3 mana, for 1 and a blue and a red, you get an X4, where X is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard, and it has flying. Liam, tell me about this card.
Yeah, this card's really cool. I've played it in a bunch of different blue-red decks at this point. I played it in blue-red tempo. It was pretty good in that deck. Kind of just like comes with its own built-in Rune Chanter's Pike.
Yeah.
I've played it in Blue Moon because I couldn't bear to play that deck without a bad card in it. So I put this card in it.
And then a bad card?
And then I killed my burn opponent in the quarterfinals of the
Yeah, I was going
qualifier
to say,
with
this
it.
card's sweet.
It was very good. Yeah, this card's just like very good. Obviously, the comparison that we made when this first got printed was to Spellheart Chimera, which is the same kind of text except it's a flying trampler and it only has 3 toughness. And what we said then was the 4 toughness is better than the trample, and we're not always right, but on that one we were. The fact that this has 4 toughness just makes it infinitely more playable because it's just way safer to play and not worry about having it die to lightning bolt or something.
Yeah.
Something crappy like
And
that.
sometimes, like, your opponent using 2 cards to kill it's kind of worth it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's often fine when it does that too. It also blocks way better as a 4 toughness creature, which is not irrelevant. Yeah, this card's really quite powerful in many of the blue-red decks. I like this card a lot.
Yeah, Vendilion Clique hates this card.
Clique hates it.
Pretty good against
Like,
that.
thump. Goodbye.
I did once equip Rune Chanter's Pike to this card, which was quite good.
Holy
So then its power was star squared.
2-star.
2-star or whatever.
That's
yeah.
messed up, man.
2, not
Yeah.
squared. Like, wow, 16? How many do you have there? 4? Like,
Wait.
You gotta get the Inquisitor's Flail on there.
Holy moly. All right.
Don't do that.
Next up, we have Nicol Bolas, the Ravager. Flavor fail, not carrying a book, but otherwise a very cool dragon. This one costs 1 and Grixis, and you get a 4/4 legendary Elder Dragon, flying. When Nicol Bolas enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, and then for 7 mana, for 4 and Grixis, exile Nicol Bolas, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. And on the back, we have Nicol Bolas the Arisen, an angry-looking dragon, still no book. A 7 loyalty planeswalker. +2, draw 2 cards. -3, deal 10 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Yeah. Gah. -4, put target creature or planeswalker from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. -12. Hey, you think Jace's ult is good? How about exile all but the bottom card of target player's library?
The Rubbins.
Jer, what do you think of Nicol Bolas? New Nicky.
I think this card's really good, and I'm going to play a lot of it.
Why?
It's just really, really good value. Like, paying 4 mana for a 4/4 flyer with a relevant ETB ability that's worth a card is, like, a very good rate. That's what you're looking for as a win condition in a mid-range or control deck. It doesn't cost too much mana. It's castable. It wins you the game. And then just, like, wins you the game super hard if you draw it late or the game goes on long.
Yeah. What do you think of the backside?
This
It's
Planeswalker is
Every
nuts.
one of these abilities is insane.
Yep.
Very strong.
It's,
Like
if
if
you
you
ever
ever
flip
try-
this
yeah.
and lose, I want to know how.
Yeah, it's like comparable to alting card and then finding a way to lose the game.
Pretty close.
All right.
Not quite that astronomical, but
They just
I
have
did hear
Vindicate.
hear a great Karn related story the other day actually, which was someone upticked their Karn, had a Phage the Untouchable put under it, and then their plan was to restart the game, and that plan no longer worked because they were going to restart the game and die to Phage.
that's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh.
I love that.
Oh, man.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah. So this was not in Highlander.
You hecked up.
Yeah, no, didn't sound like Islander.
Yeah,
All right.
I think Nicol Bolas is maybe the best card in this set. For
Yeah.
Highlander.
That's why when you were like, oh yeah, best mythic in the set with.
I said best Planeswalker.
plus Planeswalker. Sorry, yeah,
But in my defense, I wasn't counting this as a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was.
Let's move on to the Satyr Enchanter. I'm really excited about this card.
You should talk
mind
about
if I
this
take this
card,
one?
Serge? Yeah.
Okay.
Here, I'll read it and you can give me
Please,
analysis.
okay.
So Satyr Enchanter is 1 green white for a Satyr Druid. It's a 2/2, and it says when you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. Serge, tell me about this card.
I'm just so happy. Another Enchantress. So those of you who aren't familiar with the archetype, there's an archetype called Enchantress, which goes around basically 3 printings of a card with the word Enchantress in them. Argothian, Mesa, and help me out.
Enchantress's presence.
Presence and Verdurin.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, which are all effects that when you cast an enchantment, not when it enters the battlefield, when you cast an enchantment, you get to draw a spell, draw a card. Typically found in an archetype that does powerful nothing. It's really exciting to get a little bit more redundancy because, as we said, there's only 5 Enchantress effects. There's the 3 Enchantresses, which were 0/2s for 3, by the way. The fact that we get
Argothian's a 2-drop and has Shroud.
well, Argothian is the best of them all. Argothian sits on a pedestal, never to be touched because she's too perfect.
Yeah.
She still doesn't have power though, right?
No.
She's a 0/1.
So like
for
this
0/1
this
and
one
has
can
Shroud.
win you the game as they're powerfully doing now.
That's true. You could play the 10-turn clock where your Enchantress somehow gets in there for 20. I don't know how when you're casting Moat the turn after this resolves, but so it goes. Yes, this makes me very happy. I'm almost certainly going to be playing Enchantress again. Oh, right, the 5th Enchantress was from Theros block, which is the
Eidolon
4
of
mana 2/2,
Blossoms.
Eidolon of the Blossoms, which functions differently. It's whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, you draw a card. But I'm very, very excited that this card exists, and yeah, if you play, this goes in one deck, which is Enchantress, and that's about it.
Neat.
Yeah. You're like, what's this card Serge is excited about? All right, how about I set you up for a dragon?
Yeah,
You want
all right.
another dragon,
Sure.
buddy?
I'll have another.
Oh, how do I pronounce this? Vevictus
Vevictus
Asmati the Dire. 7 mana, 6/6 Elder Dragon for 3 Jund. Oh, I even gave you the Jund Dragon. Fine. When Vevictus Asmati the Dire attacks, for each player, that includes yourself,
Oh no.
choose target permanent that player controls. So you choose one of yours, you choose one of your opponents. Those players sack those permanents. Each player who sacrificed a permanent this way reveals the top card of their library and then puts that card onto the battlefield if it's a permanent.
It's a 6/6 flyer that chaos warps one of your things and one of their things every time it cracks in.
It
Yup.
doesn't shuffle it back in, it just destroys it.
They sacrifice
They
it.
sacrifice it. You can choose hexproof things. You can kill True Name Nemesis with this
No,
card.
it targets. Choose
Oh,
targets.
I read
I
choose,
know,
I got so
I know.
excited.
I almost
Sorry,
squeezed
homie.
myself there too, because that was point. I was like, it
But
says choose.
It
but
does hit any permanent.
It hits lands.
It hit lands.
That's pretty good.
Not bad.
You could turn their lands into 6-drops, or vice versa.
If they're playing 6-drops. This seems like... This ability seems really, really good against spell-heavy decks, because their chances of like flipping a relevant permanent not so high. I don't think you would feel quite as good turning this sideways against like Hoof, because they're gonna like...
You might turn their thing
Maybe?
into a 1/1.
Yeah, you might.
Whatever, they got a lot of crappy
Or
And
creatures.
Hoof has, if Hoof doesn't have a thing you want to get rid of sitting on board, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
like, you just get to like turf their best thing, be it a planeswalker or something that's about to kill you, because it taps for 10 mana.
Yeah, this is really weird and very dice rolly.
Yeah, I don't know how to evaluate this card.
Like- Honest assessment, I would not play this.
I'm gonna play this in Jund Ramp.
Yeah, I'm gonna play this card a bunch. I'm
Like, tell
ready
me
to
how it
gamble! It's time to gamble!
I was gonna say, like, if you're playing this, you have to play Chaos Warp and Gamble in the same deck. Like,
no,
yes,
no.
you do.
This
You,
effect's just way
you
better.
have to play them.
I think you can just make a mid-range deck,
Have
and
to.
then maybe you get value. Just like,
Yeah.
I'm going to blow up my elf, and then see if I can roll the dice and turn it
like,
into a planeswalker or
Don't
a
play very many
4-drop.
spells, yeah. I think it's good.
Yeah, it could be interesting. I mean, you're going to brick a bunch, and you might accidentally, like, turn your friend's land into an Emrakul and then just weep. But, that's magic.
Yep.
Or you could be the one playing Emrakul.
There you go.
Play Channel.
So 3-color Channel Dragon Emrakul. Got it.
Yeah.
That's dot deck.
We call it Chemercool.
Play Worldly Tutor.
Okay.
Then you know you're getting it.
This card might actually be good in Dragonstorm, actually, now that I think of it. Because maybe... I'm just trying to think if there's like a world where you want to be able to destroy a permanent.
After you've attacked.
Yeah, probably.
While you're swinging for lethal?
Yeah, probably doesn't matter. I was trying to think if there's like
Are you playing a Tarka?
Yes.
Okay. I was trying to think if you could beat a Peacekeeper.
Can you beat Peacekeeper? Yes. you
Oh,
can.
hang on.
What's up?
Oh, you can manipulate what your top card is.
Yeah, that's
Sure,
what I,
yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
said. Worldly
I said
tutor.
you could Worldly Tutor for Emrakul. Then you know your Emrakul.
I missed that part because the reason that Chaos Warp is so goofy is because it's always random.
Yep.
Yeah. I watched someone Chaos Warp a land into the same land. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. But
It was against me. It was very satisfying.
this seems okay. This I may have to rethink this. This seems really like a lot better in. a
You
deck
can
that-
break the symmetry.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like
Symmetrical.
because you're going to be playing Sylvan Library. Maybe you play this with like top.
Yeah. Mirari's Wake? No. Help me out. Eladrami's?
Miri's Guile.
Miri's
is the one I'm
Guile.
thinking of.
Thank you.
But
That is the one I was thinking of.
Or
You
don't
could
have
blow
to
that
play
one
that
up with
one,
this
it's
card.
okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, Corsair of Crewfix.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Card's
okay.
cool.
Let's move on. We have Arcates, the Strategist. 4 mana, 3/5. So this one's cheaper. For 1 and a Bant. Flying Vigilance. All right. Whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than power, and can also attack as though it didn't have Defender. Liam.
Yeah, so like completely sincerely, the Walls deck is maybe playable now. This is like enough of a payoff, and there are already a few that now like there might just be a big enough density that there's some kind of Walls deck that you can build that just kills
Is
people with
it
Defender.
4 color?
It has to be.
It has to be,
Probably
'cause you-
5 even.
Okay, because
'Cause
you're
you need-
definitely playing Doran. Like you have
Yeah.
to play Doran.
Yeah, of course. And then you're also Vent Sentineling people probably. So and actually some of the best defenders are red. The ones
true.
there's a bunch
Huh.
of like very good defenders.
All the ones
in
that
red.
like ping. or
Well,
whatever.
like look
Or-
forward to
or
a
have
5-color
a bunch of
Walls deck.
toughness. Yeah. So that's the only deck this card's playable in, probably. Though, it's possible you could also like slide this into some kind of like Bant ramp deck that's playing a bunch of walls like Wall of Roots and Wall of Blossoms, Wall of Omens, that sort of thing. Like maybe you're playing like a control deck, and this is like
Overgrown Battlement.
like a
Sylvan
way
Caryatid.
that you like get some incremental card advantage and then also just play a 3/5. I think it's less likely to be good in a deck like that, but I legitimately, sincerely think there might be a Walls deck now. This card is insane, nuts in that deck. It's must kill, or else you're just not going to win if they untap with it.
I also love this dragon art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty sweet, and I do like that it's Archimedes inspired.
and that it's sitting on top of a wall looking out.
It's just like sitting there. It's like sitting in a chair almost. It's like
yeah.
it's not very a traditional.
Yeah. I think this card's really cool. It's not really widely applicable, but it's really neat.
Let us talk about our last dragon, Palladium Moors, the Ruiner. This is a 6-mana 6/6 for 3 and Anaya. Legendary Elder Dragon, flying, vigilance, trample, and has hexproof if it hasn't dealt damage yet
Ooh-wee.
this turn. Wait,
No,
yet?
no.
Oh,
It just
period.
says yet,
Just
period.
ever.
Yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a weird thing to keep track of, but yeah.
Oh.
And it
That makes a lot more sense. I'm
Oh.
like, that's oddly
Wait, is
worded.
this a binary state?
Yes.
Oh,
That's the part that
Either
caught me up there
has
too.
hexproof or does not. I'm surprised this isn't worded because there's enough space. I'm surprised this isn't worded as like when Palladium Moors deals damage, put a ravaged counter on it or something,
Or
and
take
it
now
off
it
or
no
something.
longer has
That's-
hexproof. Yeah, or
I
something.
mean, they added corpse counters.
That-
right, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
Jared, tell me about this card.
I actually like this card better than most people. It's really good at killing your opponent really, really fast. It's something you can tap out for, and you can be pretty reliable that you're going to get to untap with it. You're either going to get to eat one of their creatures if it's tempting enough for you to do so, or you get to get one solid ruinous hit in.
those 3 abilities are really scary because it's gonna get in and it's gonna hang back and just be a brick wall for whatever they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flying Vigilance, Trample, and 6/6 are all good keywords.
The keyword has 6 power toughness.
That's a keyword that people often overlook. Like, I was going to talk about it on Runic Armasaur, but like 5 toughness is a secret keyword in this format. Like,
yep.
you just like having 5 toughness is worth noting.
That's the one where you tick the toughness up to 5, and then the chart of removal and blocks just turns all gray.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for a few.
rafts. Yeah.
It goes from 10% grayed out to 1%.
All right, let us talk now about artifacts. Our good old colorless friends that just get to kind of chill out. We're talking about 2 today. They both cost 3 mana, and the first one is one I'm very excited about. Let's say hello and welcome back to our good friend,
Crucible of Worlds. Crucible of Worlds is a 3 mana artifact. It was actually a community designed card originally.
Ooh.
This was the first community design card. And it reads, you may play land cards from your graveyard. Serge, tell me about this card.
I'm so happy it's back.
But you already have a copy of this
Don't
card.
you already have like a foil masterpiece of this or something? Now other people get to experience it too. Maybe that's the important
I was going to say, the lands deck is now very slightly more affordable.
So, you know what? You know what's even better than strip mining somebody once? Strip mining somebody every turn.
I was going to say 0 times, but yeah, fair enough.
I just love this card so much. It just does so many neat things.
Yeah, like play lands from your graveyard.
Or play a land from your graveyard.
I have so much to say that I'm having trouble articulating it. What decks do you want to play this in? The obvious one is lands. The obvious one is a lands deck where you want to accelerate. It's important to note that the effect just by itself isn't powerful enough to put into any deck. You really need to build around this. You need to figure out, how am I going to gain advantage over this? If I'm playing Crucible of Worlds and my opponent is playing King Kitty Brimaz and they're staring across from each other, what am I going to do to be able to get ahead of this?
I feel like your floor for this card is you want to be able to at least play a fetch after you cast this.
Yeah.
And then your ceiling is strip mine locking them.
Or gaining infinite life, or so many
Just
things.
winning the game.
Dealing
Yeah.
infinite damage is now even a live thing
Yeah,
to do with this
yeah.
card.
Yeah, with Sunscorched Desert, there's so many things. It's a combo piece, and the best way to think about this is not in terms of fair magic, but in degenerate magic, where you're playing a game and your opponent just watches and says, "Are you done yet?" And you're like, "No, hold on." Yeah. Other archetypes that it works well in is prison. In particular, ones where you're constantly getting rid of all the lands in play with effects like Armageddon or Ravages of War. The ability to make those effects not symmetrical because you have the tools to rebuild is great. Or even in a Pox deck, where you're forced to sacrifice permanents or lands, you can rebuild just to sort of offset that back and forth between the two of them. So those really fun archetypes that make you a lot of friends in your community.
I mean, you do happen to have a lot of friends, but I gotta tell you, it's not because of the decks that you play.
Yeah, it's... I wonder if you would have better friends if you didn't play these kind of decks. Or if your
Serge
friendship
has
would
pretty
be
good
deeper
friends.
with them.
I really think it's a testament to Serge's personality that he can maintain the level of friendships he has.
Yeah,
while
actually.
playing the
Certainly
decks that he
true.
plays.
I have been told I'm the nicest person who'll ever strip mine lock you.
It's true.
That's true.
You're like, I feel as though I should be more upset or nauseated by this, but I'm not.
I've never enjoyed playing so little Magic in my life ever as much when I play against him.
All right, let's move on to our next 3-mana artifact that we want to talk about. It's the Dragon's Horde. It's a 3-mana mana rock. Whenever a dragon, but wait, there's more. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, put a gold counter on the Dragon Horde. Remove a gold counter, draw a card. Who's up?
It's Alex.
Alex, what do you think of this card, Alex?
Played in Dragons. I mean, this seems like it's good in exactly one deck, which is Dragon Stompy. Am I incorrect?
Well, so there's a bunch of big decks that want rocks, and many of those big decks happen to play dragons. Mm-hmm. But you're right that there's only one sort of genre of decks that I think that are is interested
you're
in this card.
pretty pigeonholed into what deck you can slide this into, which is just are you playing dragons? Yes. Are you playing big dragons? Yes.
Well,
okay.
there aren't really small dragons either.
No, it's just are you playing mana rocks and dragons?
Yeah.
This probably maybe goes in.
So here's a question.
Depends how many dragons.
Well, let's look at our 3-mana mana rocks. So Coalition Relic is almost certainly getting in.
That's the best one.
That's the best
one.
Yeah, and then what? Do you play this over Worn Power Stone?
No, like the kind of cards that this is getting in over are like Pristine Talisman.
Or
Yeah.
Oh, I like that
I
one.
can
though.
see playing this over Chromatic Lantern.
Yeah,
or
okay.
something like Chromatic Lantern you might play this instead of. I do feel like this should have additional text where, like, if you assemble it plus Covetous Dragon, you just win the game. You know, like, it's such a flavor win. And then there's also that one from Ravnica where if you get 20 artifacts in play...
Hoarding Dragon.
Hoarding Dragon. Like, this also should just win the game with
Wait,
Hoarding
no,
Dragon.
I lied. It's not Hoarding Dragon. It's
But it's something like that.
oh man, how do
Like,
I?
is there
not-
maybe a
I
ver-
love this card. Oh, this is gonna be so frustrating.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, is this maybe playable in a mono or a big red variant that only plays dragons as its win con?
Yeah, it's probably fine in that kind of deck too.
I was talking to Matthew, and he's pretty stoked for this. He's
Yeah.
like, I put this in Big Red every day.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that.
The advantage this has for the big decks as well is those very gas pedal to the floor ramp decks often run out of gas.
Yeah.
And the ability to rebuild whatsoever. You're just looking it up?
Yeah,
Nice, Jared.
I need to find
the
it.
ability to draw some cards in the mid to late game to start to continue to put the pressure on is
Hellkite
something that's very
Tyrant.
Hellkite Tyrant? Oh, Jared
that's
got
the
it.
one for sure.
Hellkite
Liam,
Tyrant is
the other Jared. Definitely
Pardon me.
Hellkite Tyrant.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Woo-wee!
Hellkite Tyrant and Dragon's Horde flavor combo. Love it. All right, let us move on.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
I think that the Dragon's Horde has to draw one card for it to be worth it. I think it can be a bit deceptive to look at it and think like, oh, this might draw 2 or 3 or 4 cards. But I think as long as it draws one, it's earned its place in your deck.
Definitely.
That's my perspective on this card. So if you have enough dragons where you think that Dragon's Horde is reliably drawing you one card, that's making your deck a lot better than another 3-mana rock.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. Very cool. Let us talk about the last card in our Magic Core Set 19, and that is the Land Detection Tower. Tap to add a colorless, or 1 and tap until end of turn. Your opponents and creatures your opponents control with hexproof can be the targets of spells and abilities you control as though they didn't have hexproof. Liam, take us home.
Just when they printed more Enchantress cards for you, they also printed Answers to Enchantress.
No!
This is a pretty kind of techie card where I think it's not going to be super broadly playable necessarily, but it's definitely interesting. And I think if you have a particular meta where there are a lot of hexproof things running around, then it could be a bit of a free roll to put in your deck.
Is there a reason this isn't templated? Your opponents and creatures your opponents control lose hexproof?
I don't have a compelling answer.
Because
for you.
they don't lose hexproof.
They do not. No, they can just be targeted as though they don't have it.
I mean, I'm just wondering why they templated it.
They
this way.
often template cards like this, right? Like a lot of the defender attacks cards are worded as creatures with defender may attack as though they don't have defender, not creatures with defender lose defender. But I don't know why they do that. I think it's possible they've just decided that that's more intuitive because it's only a one-turn thing potentially.
Yeah.
And so rather than maybe having new players get confused
I
by
bet you
a card like
anything
this.
it's some sort of thing that looks simpler in text and is way more complicated
Yeah.
in rules.
Well, and I like if you say lose it, I bet
No, it
a
has
lot
to
of-
regain it.
Right, and I bet there's also confusing stuff with people forgetting until end of turn, all this kind of stuff. Whereas where it's templated this way, it's pretty clear that it's like, yeah, you shine the spotlight, they get to be targeted this one turn, and then it's back to hiding under the hex proofness.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
that's
tech card. Play it in if your opponents are playing hexproof creatures. If not, don't.
Fair enough. That is the completion of our set review. I hope everybody had a good time listening to our thoughts on what we're looking forward to for the next couple sets. Let us go to our closing segment, Powerful Magic. And up to date, we've got Jer. Jer, regale us with your words.
So I have a relatively powerful and anti-powerful, powerful anti-magic.
powerfully tragic.
All right.
Yeah, story from my trip down to Seattle to
Oh, no.
to Mock's boarding house.
Uh-oh.
I was doing really well. I was started out 2-0.
Okay.
Played some really awesome matches against some locals, and then I got paired up against somebody I knew was playing Craterhoof, which I think is a pretty good matchup. I was playing Jeskai, so I got lots of cheap removals, some counter spells, some good ways to win the game. So if you told me I was going to play Craterhoof, I wouldn't necessarily change my deck choice.
Sure.
I like the matchup. We both mulligan to 6. I keep 3 lands, 2 of which are fetch lands, 1 of which is a dual. Miscalculation, Soulfire Grandmaster, and Ancestral Recall. So it's like, that's exactly what I'm looking for in a Vault of Sticks. So I snap it off, play my first land, pass. They play their first land and pass, so they don't even have a mana elf. So I'm like, nice.
Yeah.
Smooth sailing. So I cast Ancestral Recall on their end step, draw 3 lands.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like,
okay.
Well, like, I wasn't going to win drawing those 1 by 1. So I'm like, okay, glad to get those out of the way. Untap, draw a land for the turn. Play a land. Get my Soulfire Grandmaster in play, because there's nothing super, super dangerous they can do on 2. Like, if he plays exactly Raphaelos or Fauna Shaman, I'm probably in trouble. But I feel like I need to get some pressure on. My hand's not doing too much.
Okay, fair.
So I play Soulfire Grandmaster and pass. They play, I think, Overgrown Battlement. So I'm like, all right, so I'm not going to get in damage, but I'm at least going to get to start gaining life. So I untap, draw land. Attack.
That's 5 in a row, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Attack, gain my 2 life, play land, pass. And so I'm just like looking super scary with blue mana up.
6 cards in hand.
7.
Okay.
7 cards in hand. They go to play Garrick, one of the Garricks. I miscalculate like immediately.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. Pass back to you. I untap, draw land.
Land count is 6.
Play a land. Attack them again, gain 2 more life. And I even get in 2 damage this time because their wall was blocked.
Ooh, okay.
Or wall was tapped. Then they untap, draw a card, and I'm sitting there with 4 mana, and he like asked how many cards in hand, and I'm like 6. And he's like, And so he goes and he plays Xenagos to Reveler, and I like sort of look, like start tapping some mana, and I'm like, no, that resolves. Because of course, the entirety of my hand is lands.
Not even a good hand in Mental Magic.
No. And so he makes a Satyr and then attacks me because the Satyr has haste. I take 2. Then I untap, draw land.
No! 7!
Yeah. Then I play a land, go to maybe cast a spell, then just say, no, I'll pass. And I do that like fairly quickly. I'm not taking
Next
too much.
level bluffing skills.
Yeah, well, if you have literally nothing, you have to like ham it up a little.
Yeah.
Just like counting, you like.
Then they untap, draw, and they like sort of look at me like they don't necessarily believe me anymore. And then they just slam Deranged Hermit, and I'm like,
oh no!
Yep, that resolves. Then they uptick Xenagos, cast something else big, and then I like show them untap, draw another land, and then just like show them my hand of lands. And they're like, oh man. And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah.
8 in a row.
I like reconstruct my opening hand, and they're like, because they made a comment when I cast Ancestral Recall, they're like, oh, that's a good mulligan. And I'm like, yeah, like I thought it was, but
that's
not
so dirty.
Moly.
The powerful magic of putting lands in your deck. Sometimes you draw them.
Good
Magic
gravy.
can be cruel at times. That's hilarious, though. Thank you for the story.
Yeah, that was powerful.
All right.
Well, everybody, that is our episode for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so happy. The band's back together, everybody.
The band.
It is
Boys,
way too hot in here.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. Everybody, thank you so much. A reminder, this podcast is brought to you by you with your support at the Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. From North 100 to you, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.